Mark Levin here. After any presidential election, I take time to reevaluate my own financial investments. That's why I continue to invest in gold for help with my financial protection. When it comes to gold, I only trust Advantage Gold. They're a top gold company in America, and that's who I turn to for my own gold purchases. Call them now at 800-900-8000. That's 800-900-8000 for a free gold investment kit. And see if you qualify for up to $1,000 in free silver. That's 800-900-8000. And tell them Mark Levin sent you. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811. Hello, 877-381-3811. There's apparently a drone infestation in the Northeast, and originally I thought they were talking about Kamala Harris supporters. You know, I call leftist drones. But there's a lot of stuff in the sky, and some of it's pretty big, and they're flying around, and when people point their flashlight, they're shutting their lights off. Are you going to tell me that the Federal Bureau of Investigation, are you going to tell me that the FAA, are you going to tell me that the United States Air Force, are you going to tell me NASA, are you going to tell me all these entities that we have, some are law enforcement, some are military, some are just plain scientific, they don't know what the hell's going on? But they do know it's not the enemy. Well, if it's not a foreign enemy, then somebody's doing it for fun. So who is it? Or our government's doing it. Now, which is it? The idea that we don't have any idea on what the hell's going on is preposterous. You know what we call this? It's very simple. It's some kind of a cover-up. It's some kind of a cover-up. Now, my guess has been the Communist Chinese. I could be wrong. But how complicated is this? Seriously. These are drones. Now, you can go buy drones off the shelf at some stores. Some of these are huge military-like drones. Well, you can't buy those off the shelf, can you? Some of these drones are as big as helicopters, they're telling us, Mr. Producer. You can't just buy that at Best Buy, can you? But don't worry. It's not the Islamo-Nazi regime in Tehran. Don't worry. It's not the Communist Chinese genocidal murders in Beijing. Don't worry. I'm worried. What the hell is it? I'll tell you what I'm worried about. Either we don't know what it is, or there's a cover-up, and they're not telling us. And I think it's the latter. And we have members of Congress who are rightly angry saying, hey, we keep asking you in the bureaucracy what the hell's going on, and you're stiff-arming us. They don't have the right to stiff-arm members of Congress. And we will have our friend Chris Smith, Republican congressman from New Jersey, the longest serving, I might add, on the program. He's very good at trying to get to the bottom of these sorts of things, having dealt with the bureaucracy for decades. But it's utterly unacceptable. So Jeff Van Drew, who's really a good guy, he represents South Jersey, Atlantic City, Vineland, really a diverse area. Was a Democrat. He likes Trump. He flipped. He switched to Republican. He gets reelected. He's a good guy. So he says, I've got sources, and I'll tell you what my sources tell me. Cut 10, go.
And from very high sources, very qualified sources, very responsible sources, I'm going to tell you the real deal. Iran launched a mothership probably about a month ago that contains these drones. That mothership is off, I'm going to tell you the deal. It's off the east coast of the United States of America. They've launched drones, is everything that we can see or hear. And again, these are from high sources. I don't say this lightly. Now, we know there was a probability it could have been our own government. We know it's not our own government because they would have let us know. It could have been some really glorified hobbyists that were doing something unbelievable. They don't have the technology. But let's pretend that's possible. The third possibility was somebody, an adversarial country, doing this. Know that Iran made a deal with China to purchase drones, motherships, and technology in order to go forward. The sources I have are good. They can't reveal who they are because they are speaking to me in confidentiality. These drones should be shot down. Whether it was some crazy hobbyist that we can't imagine or whether it is Iran, and I think it very possibly could be, they should be shot down. We are not getting the full deal, and the military is on alert with this.
Yeah, we are not getting the truth. I don't think it's a hobbyist. With swarming drones, Mr. Producer? 12, 20 at a time? That's some hobbyist. The military ought to hire that guy. But I don't think so. Time will tell. But this administration is opaque. This administration is constantly keeping the American people, we the people, in the dark here. And then we have Sabrina Singh. She is one of the liars for the regime. She's the deputy Pentagon press secretary. And she dismisses Jeff Van Drew. Cut 17, go.
Representative Jeff Van Drew, who is a Republican from New Jersey, was just on the air saying that Iran launched a mothership probably about a month ago that contains these drones, and that mothership is off the coast of the east coast of the United States. Is there any truth to that?
There is not any truth to that. There is no Iranian ship off the coast of the United States, and there's no so-called mothership launching drones.
May I ask you, are there any weather balloons flying around that are actually communist Chinese spy balloons? What about that, Mr. Producer? I don't trust them. I don't trust them. Well, if it's not an Iranian mothership, and it's not a ship at all, and it's not a foreign threat, how do they know all these things? How do they know all these things? Crazy. Go ahead.
The United States.
And there is no so-called mothership launching drones to the United States. Well, who is? I don't know. Well, how do you know that? I don't know. It is time for the Trump administration to take over here and get to the bottom of this stuff. Then we have Robert Willard Jr., senior FBI official, at a hearing yesterday. Cut 18, go.
Is the public at risk? Is public safety at risk? Are we concerned that there are nefarious intentions that could cause either national security or a public safety incident that would put Americans at risk?
There's nothing that is known that would lead me to say that, but we just don't know, and that's the concerning part.
Now, that is one of the most irrational sentences I've ever heard, Mr. Producer. There's nothing that is known that would lead me to say that, but we just don't know, and that's the concerning part. So you don't have any foggy idea. That's what you should say. I don't have the foggiest idea. Wow. Isn't this amazing? These are drones. They're not like supersonic, hypersonic devices. And so I'm sitting here thinking to myself, if it's true that we can't figure this out, and I don't believe it is, but if it is true, how the hell are we ever going to defend ourselves against far more sophisticated weaponry than drones, for God's sakes? How? I don't know. But this is preposterous. And I want the people in New Jersey to know, the rest of the country, we stand with you in this dronian scandal. And it's really a scandal because it's one of two things. It's either our government or it's a foreign government. I think it's the latter. And the weasels in the White House don't want to do anything about it any more than they wanted to do anything about that weather balloon. Remember, people said, shoot the damn thing down. It's the communist Chinese. They're spying on our nuclear sites. They're spying on our missile systems. Well, we can't be sure. You know, it's like the Hindenburg flying up there. It's so massive. We can't be sure what it is, but we know what it is. And so how much longer does this go on? It's crazy. You know, in the good old days, the American citizen would shoot these damn things out of the sky, Mr. Producer. But today you would get, a 15, 20-year sentence if you dared to try and do anything like that. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Did you see what the Federal Reserve did literally days after President Trump's victory? It's lowered interest rates by a quarter. Do you know why it did that? It's worried about the economy. It's worried about the fact that jobs aren't being created. We're seeing all kinds of shifts in our portfolios, and it's important to stay aware. That's why I'm urging everyone to diversify and consider gold as one of your financial shields. Now, gold has weathered every kind of economic downturn throughout history. I want you to call Advantage Gold. They're the best of the best, folks. I've dealt with all of them. They're the best. They're my gold company. 1-800-900-8000. Get a free gold investment kit to see how you can get started with gold. I recommend Advantage Gold to anyone who's serious about protecting their wealth, and that's you. Call 800-900-8000 for your free gold investment kit, and you could even qualify for up to $1,000 in free silver. That's 800-900-8000. Call them now. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. You'll be very happy with them. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional. If this Pete Hegseth nomination is turned around, and it looks like it's happening, still a ways to go with the hearings and so forth, it's thanks to you. It's thanks to you. Once again, the audience in talk radio is utterly ignored. The audience in this program. Point in every direction. Even our friends at Breitbart just did this. We had a call to action. You folks stepped up. We named names. We told you about Joni Ernst and her campaign. We told you we heard from it on Capitol Hill and Mar-a-Lago. Lindsey Graham, a frequent guest on many of our friends' shows. We criticized him. We called him out. You folks responded to that in a very beautiful and patriotic ways. You always do. You always do. And you're just underappreciated, not by me. That's for sure. I appreciate you all. You're fantastic. But you're underappreciated even by conservative outlets. It's really quite shocking. And same thing on Fox. On Saturday, we had a call for action, the entire monologue. On Sunday, also relating to Kash Patel and, of course, a strong defense of President Trump. He called me on Monday and thanked me, and he also mentioned the Saturday defense of Hegseth. So we're out there. We're doing our thing. Lesser knowns can pretend we're not. Lesser knowns can pretend that, well, whatever they want. Doesn't matter to us. We're involved in action. We're involved in the mission. This is what we do. This is what we've always done, and we won't stop. Afghanistan at the hearing in the House of Representatives today. Brian Mast. Brian Mast is a great hero. He's a great hero as a combat veteran, but he's a great representative. I'm so proud to have him as my congressman in Florida. Just terrific. And here he is at a hearing on Afghanistan today. Cut, and this is important. This is important. Cut 5, go.
We are still giving the Taliban tens of billions of dollars. There's an American citizen out there literally woke up this morning losing 30% of their paycheck, and a good percentage of that is going to the Taliban or other programs abroad. And this is something that we all need to think about, and we will be thinking about deeply for the next 2 years. There's a joke that's made often out there about kids going to college to learn basket weaving, and what a joke that would be. But the United States right now is literally sending tens of millions of dollars to the Taliban $14.9 million to be exact, to teach Afghans how to do carpet weaving. Let's think about that. We are giving $280 million to the United Nations to do cash transfers for food in Afghanistan. Yet we're not sending an ear of corn from Iowa, a sack of potatoes from Idaho, or a cucumber or an orange from Florida. And that discounts the fact that there's no American tonnage going through our ports to send those things out of here either. It's just cash transfers. Another line item, these are directly from CIGAR reports. $75 million to teach Afghan women to be farmers. I don't believe that we spend $30 million in the United States of America to teach women to be farmers. My colleague, Mr. Wilson, brought up that they can't even dance in the streets or speak to one another or go to school. I'm not sure that we can trust that that $75 million is being used to teach them agriculture. And as you pointed out, we don't have any diplomats on the ground to confirm the validity of these programs. Here's one that I was entirely curious about, and maybe you could explain it to me. $3.5 billion transferred to the Afghan fund that is tended to protect the macro financial stability on behalf of the Afghan people. What the hell does that mean? Can you tell me? I don't know. That's a bunch of gibberish to me.
Mm-hmm. You see, trainer Antony Blinken was testifying today. Now, he said, what about all these people we've left behind in Afghanistan? You won't believe this. It's like the border secure, that we heard that for 3 years. Listen to this. Cut 6, go.
First, did we leave people behind? No, we got them out, including after the deadline of our evacuation. By the time we got to August 31st,
he's such a liar. He's such a disgusting liar. This guy is worse than a Svengali. He just is. We got all our people out. We all know that's not true. We all know that's not true. As a matter of fact, we know that's not true. And there he is. Go ahead.
Several hundred Americans who were left, who had identified themselves to us as wanting to leave, but could not get to or into the airport. I committed to make sure we got them out. And between the end of the evacuation and the end of the year, we got the 500 remaining Americans out who either then or after August 31st identified themselves as wanting to leave. We made good on that commitment. Telling the embassy to remain open. Yes, we all wanted the embassy to remain open. It was fully our expectation that the Afghan government...
And that's enough. I can't even stand this guy. Affectation, his voice. But Mike Lawler lights into this guy. Cut 7, go.
Have you read this report in full?
I have read the executive summary of the report. I haven't read the entire report yet. Okay. I've read the executive summary.
I hope that you will take this copy with you on your flight to the Middle East and read it, because this is your legacy. This is your legacy. Starting with the disastrous withdrawal in Afghanistan that resulted in the death of 13 U.S. service members, creating 13 Gold Star families. I'm going to stop
here. I only have a minute left. This deserves more than a minute. I didn't realize that. So we're going to wait till after the break to play this clip. Sorry, folks. They're talking about the withdrawal from Afghanistan. You know, they've been waiting forever to get this Blinken in front of this committee because he's so busy. And he's already putting out feelers out there about recognizing the new government in Syria. You know, the terrorists. This guy is sick. This guy was never qualified to be Secretary of State. John McCain was 100% correct. When we come back, we'll start that from the beginning. I'll be right back. The markets are volatile. They're shooting up wildly only to drop without warning. The Fed just cut rates yet again, this time by a quarter point. Why? Because the Federal Reserve is not confident the economy is strong. In fact, last month only 12,000 jobs were created, all of them in the government. That's why I'm telling you again, diversification is crucially important. And diversification with gold is what I do. And the company I use, and I've used many, the best one is Advantage Gold. Call them now at 800-900-8000 for a free gold investment kit to see how gold gold can help you diversify your investments and take advantage now. Now, gold has been helping to protect and grow wealth for people for thousands of years. And in these times, it can be more crucial than ever. When it comes to gold, I trust Advantage Gold. They're one of the top gold companies in America. They're who I turn to when I purchase gold. Call them now, 800-900-8000. Call 800-900-8000 now for a free gold investment kit to see how gold can help you with your investment portfolio, a.k.a. your bank accounts, your paycheck. And when you do, you could qualify for $1,000 in free silver. That's 800-900-8000. Folks, don't wait. Call them now, 800-900-8000, and tell them Mark Levin sent you. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional.
On the straight and narrow path, you have a guide. Mark Levin. Call him now at 877-381-3811.
All right, let's lock this down, baby, and then we'll move on. But it is important. Afghanistan needs to be remembered and what took place there and who did what. Here's Representative Lawler with the traitor Antony Blinken behind the microphone in front of him. Go.
Have you read this report in full?
I have read the executive summary of the report. I haven't read the entire report yet.
Okay.
I've read the executive summary.
I hope that you will take this copy with you on your flight to the Middle East and read it, because this is your legacy. This is your legacy. Starting with the disastrous withdrawal in Afghanistan that resulted in the death of 13 U.S. service members, creating 13 Gold Star families. Families our vice president hasn't even been bothered to meet with. Then the Russian invasion of Ukraine, the terrorist attack on Israel, the illicit oil trade between China and Iran to the tune of $200 billion under your watch. That is what is funding Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and other terror networks in the region. China threatening Taiwan. This is your legacy, and this stems from this disastrous withdrawal. So I hope you read the report in full and reflect upon that. You talk about the Doha Agreement. It's conditions-based. This administration had no problem reversing policy decisions that it disagreed with President Trump on. In fact, Joe Biden revoked 94 executive orders to open up our southern border and create an absolute calamity. 70,000 Americans die every year from fentanyl overdose, as this administration has allowed fentanyl to pour into our country. Drug trafficking, gangs, human trafficking, women and children being sold into prostitution. Not a care in the world.
Nope.
This is the legacy. So don't sit here and tell us, having not read the report, that you disagree with it or it's not true. Saying to my colleague from Florida, oh, it's not true, we left people in Israel after October 7th. It most certainly is. I had constituents calling in a full-fledged panic, and we called the State Department and we're told there is nothing we can do. Don't tell us that that didn't happen. This administration had no problem trying to renegotiate the Iran nuclear deal. No problem lifting sanctions on Iran, allowing for the illicit oil trade. So when you say that the previous administration negotiated the Doha Agreement and therefore we were bound by it, that is complete and utter bullshit.
Attaboy.
And you know it. You absolutely safety and well-being of American citizens, and to make sure what happened did not.
In Afghanistan, yeah.
Mr. Secretary, on August 26, 2021, who was the President of the United States?
Joe Biden.
On August 26, 2021, who was the Secretary of State?
I was.
Okay. Take responsibility. Don't shirk in your responsibilities. Don't try to shift blame. The reality is you guys allowed the conditions on the ground to deteriorate. You did not hold the Taliban to account. And as a result, 13 U.S. service members are dead, and the world is a tinderbox.
Let's stop a minute. I think it's very important that you hear this. Because here's finally Blinken in front of a committee being told what a disaster he is and what he and Biden have done to our country and the people in this country and other countries. It's very, very important. I mean, I could fire through in 30-second sound bites this issue, that. No, this is important. Go ahead.
Precarious place since the lead up to World War II. That is your legacy. Period. Full stop. And if Israel listened to this administration and didn't go into Gaza and didn't go into the South, Sinwar would still be alive. And if Israel listened to this administration, Nasrallah would still be alive. And Assad would still be in power in Syria. And Iran would be stronger than ever. That is your legacy. This Congress has passed the SHIP Act and the Abraham Accords Special Envoy. You didn't fill the Special Envoy, and you didn't enforce the SHIP Act. You've had over a year to do both. That is your legacy. You leave the world worse off today than it was when you inherited it.
Gentleman's time has expired.
Enjoy reading this. Because this is your legacy.
That's enough, Rich. That's enough. Thank you. I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen, that was really a tour de force. That was a tour de force in confronting the Secretary of State and laying out his disastrous foreign policy. You don't get to see that very often. You don't get to hear that very often. Yet this did take place today. And I'm betting it wasn't on TV. I haven't been watching TV. It wasn't on much radio. But it was very, very important. And I'm proud of him for doing that. Because it needed to be laid out. Because they're taking credit for Assad being gone. They're taking credit for Iran being weak. They're taking credit for Hezbollah nearly defeated, Hamas nearly defeated. It's sickening watching these people. When it was Netanyahu who did it, and Netanyahu they tried to destroy, and 18 Democrats 3 weeks ago in the Senate tried to vote to cut all arms off from Israel. I want you to think about something, America. Thanks to Netanyahu, the mass murderer who killed 600,000 of his own people in Syria is gone. He ran off to Moscow. Not thanks to Biden, not thanks to Blinken. So who's the humanitarian here? Netanyahu. Who's the person that saved more lives than Biden could have possibly even dreamed? It was Netanyahu. It was his foreign policy. It was his military policy. It was his government. And thank God it was his steel backbone resisting these buffoons, these fools, these Keystone cops that made it possible. Netanyahu. And by the way, to show you how screwed up Israel's judicial system is, as I speak, this man is in a courtroom defending himself against preposterous allegations about cigars, champagne, and the media. In the middle of a war on 8 fronts, their statesman leader not only has to deal with the ICC, not only has to deal with the UN, not only has to deal with the Biden regime and our crazy-ass Department of State, he's got to deal with his own judiciary and their out-of-control attorney general over cigars and champagne and the media. Now, by the way, the two main state witnesses involving cigars and champagne and the media have now turned on the government. They've turned on the prosecutors. Even the judge thought, well, you might want to drop one of these cases, and they refused to do it. So they're loaded with Alvin Bragg types over there, radical left-wing kooks. In their judicial system, in their prosecutorial system over there, it is bizarre how much power these buffoons actually have. But it is Netanyahu, in effect, who has saved the people of Syria. It's Netanyahu. Netanyahu will liberate the people in Lebanon, who will liberate the people in Gaza. It's Netanyahu who one day, hopefully working with President Trump, will liberate the people of Iran. What comes after? No one can know, no one can predict, nobody can control. But that's the truth, and this is Netanyahu that they've had a smear campaign against for years. This is Netanyahu, the vice president, wouldn't even go to the joint session of Congress to introduce him for his historic speech. This is the Netanyahu who Bernie Sanders, a Marxist, Stalinist SOB, and about half of the Democrat Party demanded be removed. Even Schumer, busy trying to un-Jew himself, who is a complete fraud and a phony and a fool, gave that horrendous speech that will be remembered because it was horrendous, demanding that Netanyahu step down. It is this regime in our country and their party that tried to overthrow an elected prime minister of an ally democratic state. And they want to take credit, you see. They want to take credit for what's happening. That Iran is weak. Iran's weak because Israel's strong. And as we explained here, thanks to the story broken by the Free Beacon, $10 billion went into the pockets of the Islamo-Nazi regime in Tehran 3 weeks after Trump's election. While at the same time, they're boycotting weapons from Israel, even as I speak. Even as I speak. Sick. And getting sicker. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Did you see what the Federal Reserve did literally days after President Trump's victory? It's lowered interest rates by a quarter. Do you know why it did that? It's worried about the economy. It's worried about the fact that jobs aren't being created. We're seeing all kinds of shifts in our portfolios, and it's important to stay aware. That's why I'm urging everyone to diversify and consider gold as one of your financial shields. Now, gold has weathered every kind of economic downturn throughout history. I want you to call Advantage Gold. They're the best of the best, folks. I've dealt with all of them. They're the best. They're my gold company. 1-800-900-8000. Get a free gold investment kit to see how you can get started with gold. I recommend Advantage Gold to anyone who's serious about protecting their wealth, and that's you. Call 800-900-8000 for your free gold investment kit, and you can even qualify for up to $1,000 in free silver. That's 800-900-8000. Call them now. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. You'll be very happy with them. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional. You know, the immigration figures, I should say the illegal immigration figures, they're worse than you think. Over PJ Media, Rick Moran, you aren't going to believe the number of migrants who've entered the U.S. since 2021. We've known for years the number of migrants entering the U.S. during Joe Biden's term was massive. Believe it or not, New York Times reporters work with government officials and outside experts to, quote-unquote, analyze the magnitude of the recent immigration surge in the United States. Notice they do it when it's too late. They do it after the election and after it's all occurred, rather than before the election, well before the election, so the American people could have the information and try and get their representatives to actually do something about it. The results are nothing short of mind-blowing. Quote, the immigration surge since 2021, ready? Has been the largest in U.S. history, surpassing even the levels of the late 1800s and early 1900s. Total net migration. The number of people coming to the country minus the number of leaving will likely exceed 8 million people over the past 4 years. I would argue 20 million, but what do I know? Government statistics suggest the number includes both legal and illegal immigration, begins the analysis, and all those gotaways. According to data from the Census Bureau and the Congressional Budget Office, net migration has never been anywhere close to 2 million for an extended period of time, and we're at 8 million according to this report. Annual net migration, the number of people coming to the country minus the number leaving, averaged 2.4 million from 2021 to 2023. According to the CBO, total net migration during the Biden administration is likely to exceed 8 million people. That's a faster pace of arrivals than during any period on record, including the peak years of Ellis Island traffic, when millions and millions of Europeans came to the United States. Even after taking into account today's larger population, the recent surge is the most rapid since at least 1850. Oh, there's our buddy Brian Kilmeade on Fox, Mr. Producer. He's got to be on Fox at least 4 times a day, no? I'm just saying. A Goldman Sachs report based on government data shows that 60%, ready? 60% of the 8 million people who entered the U.S. under Biden were illegal. This is such a diabolical thing, what he and the Democrats have done to our country for their own power. It's so diabolical. The increase in combined legal and illegal immigrants has caused the share of foreign-born U.S. residents to hit a record. 15.2% of the population in America, foreign-born residents in 2023, up from 13.6% in 2020. The previous high for foreign-born U.S. residents was 14.8% in 1890. We're a nation that says if you want to flee and you're fleeing oppression, you should come, Biden said during his 2020 presidential campaign. And once in office, he said he wanted a safe, orderly, and humane immigration system. That's certainly not what we have. 325,000 missing unaccompanied children, women sold into sex slavery and pornography and raped on the way. He loosened the rules on asylum, allowing ordinary border jumpers to claim they were oppressed and get in a 5-year line to await judgment by an immigration judge. And, of course, they never show up. Immigrants from several countries receive temporary protected status, which allows immigrants to live and work in the U.S. Waiver after waiver of immigration law was granted, allowing hundreds of thousands of people in the U.S. Biden took most of these actions to alleviate the crush at the southern border. These actions include not vetting sponsors who showed up to take unaccompanied children to Lord knows where, forcing them to do Lord knows what. These actions weren't taken out of compassion. They were done to minimize the visuals at the border of thousands of immigrants trying to enter the United States. This is sick. I don't want to hear about Democrats. What about dividing families? This needs to be shoved down their damn throats. I'll be right back. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811. Hello! 877-381-3811. Congressman Smith Chris will be with us after the break. He is he's a wonderful congressman. He really digs into some of these issues, and he's dug into this drone issue. And I'm not obsessed with it, but I am troubled by the fact that either our government knows what's going on and is keeping its mouth shut, or it doesn't know what's going on. I don't know which is worse. As I say, if I had to guess, I would say it's the communist Chinese, but how would I know? It's just the way they behave. You know, with the horrendous murder of this UnitedHealth CEO, who was shot murdered in cold blood, shot in the back. First he hits him in the thigh, then he walks and stands over him and shoots him twice more. I'm supposed to have sympathy for the perpetrator? And he represents all those who are having difficulty with the healthcare industry? What kind of sickness is this? And I hear this from the left. And now some of them are coming out of the closet. Some of them are coming out of the closet, like Elizabeth Warren. I want you to hear how she puts it. She reminds me of the supporters of Hamas and Islamic Jihad and Hezbollah and other terrorist, mass-murdering, genocidal monsters in the way that she phrases this. Cut 10, go.
Stop and think overall about the social contract. You know, part of the deal in how we've kept this democracy, this economy, this country on a fairly steady path for more than 200 years has been that those at the top pay a little more in taxes.
All right, let's stop a second. I got to deal with this. She's on MSNBC, and of course, they have an IQ of a caterpillar. The so-called people at the top pay 50% of all income taxes in this country. As a matter of fact, if you count the top 5%, they pay 70% of all income taxes in this country. That's not to say you don't pay income taxes. I'm just saying that's how it works. So she is a lying thug. She's a propagandist, as most Marxists are. And their target is not the billionaires who financed Kamala Harris's campaign with $1.5 billion. It's not the billionaires that have, you know, what is that idiot's name? Like Mark Cuban? Like, you could just go down the whole damn list. Why do these billionaires support Democrats? Because Democrats support these billionaires. That's why. So this has nothing to do with taxes, has nothing to do with soaking it to the rich. This guy murdered somebody in cold blood. Go ahead.
Less rich than they otherwise might be, and everybody else at least gets a chance.
Yeah.
And what happens when you turn this
Let us stop. This is pure economic Marxism. Everybody else gets a chance. The tax code isn't what gives people a chance. Liberty is what gives people a chance. And liberty is, in fact, associated with your ability to gain private property, retain private property, to exchange private property, to sell private property. This is part of liberty. So stealing property from somebody, I'll give you an example. Let's take an example. Let's say there's a multi-billionaire out there. And that person's a multi-billionaire because they've invested in big pharma and big agriculture and big oil. See, we know how the Marxists speak. You know, a lot of them actually sound like Republicans these days, but nonetheless. And as a result, in investing in big pharma and big ag and big oil, there's more money to do what? To find new drugs, to invent new things, to grow more crops, to drill for more oil and natural gas, to frack. It's called capital investment. It's called R&D, research and development. You can't do it with nothing, and you can't do it with a Marxist socialist economic redistribution of wealth. So what people like Elizabeth Warren and her ilk, like the Stalinist Bernie the Red, what they don't understand is it's the market system, it's capitalism that creates wealth, that gives people an opportunity. It's not government. Show me anywhere on the face of the globe where government gives people an opportunity. Show me. I'm not arguing for no government. I'm arguing for constitutional government. But she isn't. She talks about the social contract. What does she mean by the social contract? She means government. But that's not the social contract. When John Locke was talking about the social contract, he was one of the great philosophers relied on by our founders. What he meant by the social contract was you, each one of you voluntarily agreeing to be part of this society. As long as the society is lawful, It's orderly. It protects you. It enables you. Not by interference, not by redistribution of wealth, not by taking from somebody else, but enables you to be who you want to be. Through freedom. That's the social contract. The social contract isn't Marxism and socialism. People in Canada, they can't see their heart doctors in time. Many of them die waiting. People in Canada, they can't see doctors to take care of their diabetes in time. Everybody's got health care. Everybody's got health care. But they don't actually get medical care. There's a difference. When will the government demonstrate to us that it's worthy of such power, such interference in our individual lives? We got drones flying around here. We spend the last 10 years trillions of dollars on national security. What are the drones? We don't know. Who are they? Oh, we know they're not going to hurt you, but we can't figure it out. What are you talking about? It's the government's job to secure the border. How's that going? How's that going? It's the government's job to ensure that we have sound money. How's that going? And so now we should turn over our very lives through the healthcare system. What does that mean? The doctors are going to work for the government? The nurses are going to work for the government? Oh, that'll be swell. Maybe like the teachers union. But that's not my focus with her. Listen, it goes on. Go ahead.
The billionaires run it all is they get the opportunity to squeeze every last penny. Yeah. And look, we'll say it over and over. Violence is never the answer. This guy gets a trial who's allegedly killed the CEO of UnitedHealth. But you can only push people so far. And then they start to take matters into their own hands.
Yeah. Now, this is an unbelievable statement. And, of course, she's being slobbered all over by an ignoramus at MSLSD because that's what they hire, ignoramuses. But I want to repeat what she said. This guy gets a trial who's allegedly killed the CEO of UnitedHealth. But you can only push people so far, and then they start to take matters into their own hands. Does that not sound like the pro-Hamas, pro-Hezbollah, pro-Iran, violent protesters in our streets? So he was pushed so far by UnitedHealth that he felt it necessary to take matters into his own hands and execute the CEO. And now these are people that rail on and on about January 6th, rail on and on about MAGA. But what is she preaching here? And on one side of her big mouth, she says violence is not the answer, to cover her ass. And then she says, but you can only push people so far. Then they start to take matters into their own hands. She doesn't even have all the facts. But it doesn't matter. This is the Marxists. The Marxists, this is the way they lay it out. The Marxist configuration. The oppressor versus the oppressed. So the insurance companies are the oppressors. I mean, sometimes insurance pays for everything that I have. Sometimes it pays for nothing. Sometimes it pays for some things. But I'll tell you this, I get a better bang for the buck with the insurance companies than I ever had with the federal government. Ever. The enormous sums of money they take from me every quarter. And what do I get in return? This Marxist POS who goes on and on about class warfare, that we're not paying enough. And her target is not billionaires. Her target is you. Remember, it's always you. You look at these Marxist and fascistic revolutions, it's not against billionaires. It's not against big this or big that. They devour the population, and the population suffers. I don't care if it's communist China, if it's Russia, if it's Syria, if it's Venezuela. They got plenty of billionaires. They got plenty of people, so-called elites. They all take care of themselves. On the radical Marxist left, it's the people who suffer. Elizabeth Warren is a hemorrhoid on the body politic, a.k.a. a hemorrhotic. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
You know, they say free but what they really mean is see the fine print. There's no shortage of ads from the big wireless carriers offering the latest iPhone for free. But look deeper. You'll realize to qualify, you need to trade in your phone valued at $1,000. You need to be on the $100 a month unlimited plan and pay the $35 activation fee. That's a lot of money for a free phone, don't you think? Well, don't fall for it. Pure Talk, my cell phone company, has a better option. Get a brand new iPhone 14, which has all the bells and whistles you need, plus get unlimited talk, text, 15 gigs of data, and mobile hotspot, all for $50 a month. How about that? Half the price of the big guys, and you get a new iPhone powered by America's most dependable 5G network. Do this. Go to puretalk.com/Levin today. Switching is easy. Plus, when you go to puretalk.com/LEVIN, you'll get an additional 50% off your first month. Pure Talk, America's wireless company. It's a pleasure to have our friend, Representative Chris Smith, with us. Chris, you're trying to get to the bottom of this drone thing. Did you ever believe it would be this difficult, number one, to get to the bottom of it? And hold on. Let me ask the question. Did you ever believe it would be this difficult to get to the bottom of it? And number two, it would be this difficult to know what's happening? These are drones. They're not jet fighters.
Exactly. From Homeland Security to the FBI, the local sheriff, Bastardinardi and Sean Golden, are doing a tremendous job, but they're not the Department of Defense, and we can't get them engaged. And we have the ability at the joint base, which is within miles of where all this is happening in my district. They have the ability, they have a very, very good capability to detect, track, and shoot these things down, determine who they are. And I've asked Lloyd Austin to do it by letter. I've called down to DOD, the Pentagon, and we've asked the local base commander to get authorization to just let these things go wherever they want to go, coming in over the ocean, from the ocean, across 50 of them the other day. It was seen by one of our sheriff's officers. She chronicled 50. And a whole bunch of them followed a Coast Guard boat within, feet, like 30, 40 feet behind it, 12 to 30 of them. This is not a benign activity here. This is either China or maybe the Middle East or Tehran, or it could be Putin. Who knows? But it's not a friendly deal.
I mean, this is shocking.
Shocking.
You have a governor who... every now and then he goes to the microphone, but he can't get to the bottom of this. You have a Defense Department that says, no, it's not the enemy. We have nothing to fear, but we don't know who it is. I mean, what kind of gibberish is this? This is double talk.
It's very dangerous double talk, and it's reminiscent, but it's even worse in a way than with that infamous balloon that the Chinese Communist Party sent over our bases, like the B-2 bomber base. Why that thing wasn't taken down really early, including when it was over Alaska, it was not a weather balloon. And you look back, this reminds me of so many things we've had in the past where we had clear indicators that there's something really wrong, and you had people just poo-pooing the whole thing. And that's what, where is Lloyd Austin? Where's the president? He should be doing something on this, and he's not doing, as far as we can tell, anything. And again, the capability to bring it down and determine one way or the other what this is all about is right there at the joint base in New Jersey.
Where's this going to end? It's just so ridiculous. Here we are, the greatest technological force on the face of the earth, the greatest space force, the greatest air force, the scientists and all the rest, and drones. Drones, they're called drones for a reason,
That's right. I don't believe it. When Mayorkas briefed a bunch of us in the delegation with the governor several days ago, I asked the question, why can't we follow one of these or several of these to their point of origin? Don't we have that capability? And he didn't know. He's the head of Homeland Security. Well, maybe DOD knows, and if they do, well, partner and get involved in this. When I talked to the base commanders, and I talked to two of them, they said if anything goes over their real estate, they have capability to bring it down. I said, they're in proximity to you, close enough. They can be there over you within minutes, if not half a minute, in some cases, based on how far away they've been. I just am angry because it reminds me, frankly, of 9/11. We had all these indicators and nobody paid attention to it. And even, Mark, I wrote a law called the Embassy Security Act back in the year 2000, had all the hearings on the 1998 bombings at Dar es Salaam and Nairobi. And I'll never forget all the top security people, including Admiral Crow, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, at my hearing said nobody thought that Al-Qaeda would do this, that they would go to a, quote, soft target. I said, well, welcome to to modern era. We know that there's terrible intent on the part of China. I mean, I've had 106 congressional hearings on Chinese Communist Party I can't even go there anymore. They wouldn't allow me to go on human rights trips. He's committing, he being Xi Jinping, genocide as we talk. They want Taiwan, and look what they're doing. It could be them, or it could be Iran, or it could be Putin. Name your poison. But to say we don't know and nothing to fear here, stop it. We want answers, and we can get answers almost immediately if we just deploy the assets already there.
Do you think they have the answers and they're just not telling you?
No, because I think they look foolish by their ignorance about what really is going on. And if there is a real crisis that they fail to inform, I talked to the base military commander at the Joint Base. He didn't have any insights. He had his whole staff there in the office. I did it by phone, and so they couldn't talk to, nothing secret. But it was like, do you know something? No, they don't know anything. And so I don't think they know it. But don't tell us that there's nothing to fear. And that's what the governor's been doing. You don't follow a Coast Guard vessel the way they did unless there's evil intent.
Mm-hmm. So what happens now?
Well, we're going to keep pushing. I'll be on the phone again tomorrow trying to get the authorization. I've already asked Austin to do it. I know that some media people have said now they're going to ask, at the Pentagon briefings, just, you've got it. If you tell me we can't detect a drone hovering in New Jersey and bring it down, what are we spending these trillions of dollars for national defense? And one other thing, this came out at a hearing yesterday. Chairman Pfluger chaired a great hearing, and what they discovered was that the FBI has $500,000 in their budget for this year for drones.
Wow.
Their walking point. That's nothing. So DOD has, much. I don't know the exact amount, but they have a very significant budget. And we've got the capability.
Can I hold you over? Because
sure.
The big question for me is going to be this, or is this. Do you think it's our government, that's how they know it's not a foreign government, and they're trying to conceal? Maybe it's the FBI, maybe it's somebody else from doing whatever the hell they're doing. I mean, is it potentially that nefarious? I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm just trying to figure it out. We'll be right back with Chris Smith. They say free, but what they really mean is see the fine print. There's no shortage of ads from the big wireless carriers offering the latest iPhone for free. But look deeper. You'll realize to qualify, you need to trade in your phone valued at $1,000. You need to be on the $100 a month unlimited plan and pay the $35 activation fee. That's a lot of money for a free phone, don't you think? Well, don't fall for it. Pure Talk, my cell phone company, has a better option. Get a brand new iPhone 14, which has all the bells and whistles you need, plus get unlimited talk, text, 15 gigs of data, and mobile hotspot, all for $50 a month. How about that? Half the price of the big guys, and you get a new iPhone powered by America's most dependable 5G network. Do this. Go to puretalk.com/Levin today. Switching is easy. Plus, when you go to puretalk.com/Levin, you'll get an additional 50% off your first month. Pure Talk, America's wireless company.
Mark Levin, the thunder on the right. Call in now, 877-381-3811.
We're here with our friend, Representative Chris Smith of New Jersey. Chris, what, if you had to surmise, what do you think this is?
Well, I think, you look the way warfare has evolved, where drones are now an integral part of it. The attacks in the Middle East on our ships by not just missiles, by drones. The Ukraine-Russia battle, the war, is filled with drones. And China, boasts about their advances that they have made in drone warfare. So, it could be the harbinger of something awful, or it could be a probing to see what does the United States do when you violate their airspace, trespass, if you will, and then do it with impunity, coming off the ocean. There probably are, if it's coming from the ocean, as the origin, there are ships out there that are doing this. And I've asked the Pentagon to go and investigate, send out our ships to find out where these things are coming from, or how could they be approaching us being New Jersey, but even New York now, from the ocean across the sand and into the mainland. It shows how porous we are, how at risk, remember Ronald Reagan was criticized when he wanted to have a nuclear shield, which Ted Kennedy foolishly called Star Wars. We don't have a lot of defenses, and especially on the perimeters like this. So they come in, nobody's noticing. Now they are. And it's local law enforcement that's doing the yeoman's work on this, and individuals who are reporting on this. I don't know. We have to get this answer today. I mean, what's the delay? Why would Lloyd Austin wait? Just today we had another hearing on the egregious leaving out of Afghanistan when 13 of our service members died, and that was so poorly done, and it told China, and it told Putin, it told the Middle East, Iran especially, the Americans, and they write about it all the time, they're cutting and running. Now are they probing us, one of those actors or all three of them again? I can't believe the lack of sense of urgency that the Department of Defense should be all over this, because they're the ones who possess the capability to make a determination. But look what they did with the balloon. They watched it, go across the United States. I still can't believe that. If that was a movie, you would say, I'm not going to go and see that one. That's not believable. And yet it was. So this administration has been so lax, on every front, human rights front, every front, and now on this one as well. So I'm hoping that, we'll get an answer tomorrow, because I'm calling again down to the Pentagon. Why don't you authorize, one of our teams at Joint Base to go and ascertain who they are and where they're going? You have the ability.
The truth.
Your question before, Mark.
I'm just dumbfounded at how stupid this is, because how stupid do they think we are?
Exactly.
Do you think, Congressman, the Communist Chinese would let this go on for 15 minutes?
They will let it go on for 5 minutes. That whatever we would be trying to do over their airspace would be immediately met and done away with. They wouldn't say, well, is it fill in the blank.
And why don't they shoot them down? Who cares who it is?
They should.
I mean, what is the rationale for that? Oh, it could hurt somebody. Okay. They're not overpopulated. They're not overpopulated areas all the time. Track the damn things. Don't we have radar? Isn't radar like 100 years old?
Yeah. We've got radar, and we got a capability to find them. This isn't, pardon the pun, but it isn't rocket science per se. If this has not been built into our threat assessment of hostile powers, shame on us. How vulnerable are we really as a nation? And unfortunately, this is telling our potential adversaries that America is asleep at the switch, and especially this administration. Now, I believe that'll change dramatically when the President Trump assumes office, and Pete and all the others get behind the effort to really make America not just great again, but strong again, because we don't have that right now. We absolutely do not have that now.
I mean, you're President of the United States. Don't you pound your fist on the table and say, what are you telling me? For 2 days you don't know what the hell this is and who the hell's doing it? Go up there and find out.
That's what I would do. And who knows if he's done it, but apparently he hasn't. Watch the Pentagon spokeswoman today say how, these are not our drones, they're not American drones, military. Okay, well, who are they? Why don't you have answers?
And how do they know your fellow congressman from New Jersey's wrong? How do they know?
Yeah, how do they know that? Exactly. I mean, the Iranians do death to America and death to Israel every day of the week, including what they write on their ballistic missiles when they're testing them. They put it right on the missile itself. They hate us, so let's realize that. And again, if they're testing and probing, their initial reaction has to be, wow, how open is that place? How porous? How lack of defensive...
Wait till we fire a hypersonic missile over there. They really won't know what to do, they're probably thinking.
That's right. I'm sure it goes into their calculations. Just like, and I brought this out to Blinken today at the hearing. I chair the China Commission. I read the Global Times and People's Daily. They do editorial after editorial admonishing the people in Taiwan to realize that, hey, they will not have your back in the United States. Look what they did in Afghanistan when they left their own people behind and left their allies as well. They won't be there for you. And they do it constantly with their editorials and their op-eds in their newspapers and their other media. It's just, I asked Blinken about that, and he just, he says they would love for us to be bogged down, in Afghanistan for many more years to come. That's not the lesson they learned from that terrible exodus. What they learned was we cut and run, and we didn't even do it well, and we left everything behind, including people.
100%. Well, Chris Smith, keep doing a great job. And if you uncover something, have your people let Mr. Producer know so I can bring you back.
We'll call you right away. I appreciate it.
All right, brother. Take care of yourself.
Serious. Thank you.
Be well.
Bye, Mark.
He's a wonderful person, too. Chris Smith, a wonderful person. So this is more than just drones over New Jersey. That would be bad enough. This is our state of readiness or our state of censorship, or both, which is enormously troubling, which is why Pete Hegseth needs to be the Secretary of Defense, which is why they don't want him, which is why Pam Bondi needs to be the Attorney General, which is why some don't want her, which is why Kash Patel needs to be the Director of the FBI, which is why some don't want him. It's time for people to come into office who are serious people, who aren't bogged down in the bureaucracy, who aren't part of the bureaucracy. That's what it's time for. I mean, this is really crazy, don't you think? And speaking of Christopher Wray, by the way, he made official what we already knew was a fait accompli, said he will resign before the end, or by the end of the current administration. So he's even going to hang on another 6 weeks. FBI Director Christopher Wray, writes Breitbart, confirmed the rumors on Wednesday, previewing his plans to resign ahead of Donald Trump's second term, according to the Washington Compost. Wray replaced Comey, of course, and he was recommended by Chris Christie. Whatever happened to him? You know, Mr. Producer, if we're looking for another balloon in the sky, I'd say maybe it's Chris, but now we're looking for drones. Drones. Well, it's still maybe Chris. Wray maintained that his stepping down is the best option for the FBI as a whole. Yeah, he should have done that a long time ago. Long time ago. Says, I love this place, I love our mission, I love our people, but my focus is and always has been on us and doing what's right for the FBI. And so President Trump weighed in. Said FBI Director Christopher Wray told Congress yesterday that he wasn't sure if I was hit by shrapnel or glass or bullet. Remember this one? The FBI never even checked, but he was sure that crooked Joe Biden was physically and cognitively uneventful, quote-unquote, wrong, Trump said in a July 25th Truth Social post. It is good riddance to Christopher Wray, good riddance. We can do a lot better than this. And also, we need people who can actually talk and communicate with the American people. I mean, you don't have to reveal all your investigative tactics. Nobody's asking for that. But these guys that just talk into their chests like they're talking into their oatmeal, it's enough already. We need people who are going to be forthcoming. He's not, in my opinion. And Kash Patel is far more qualified to be the FBI director than Christopher Wray ever was. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
You know, they say free, but what they really mean is see the fine print. There's no shortage of ads from the big wireless carriers offering the latest iPhone for free. But look deeper. You'll realize to qualify, you need to trade in your phone valued at $1,000. You need to be on the $100 a month unlimited plan and pay the $35 activation fee. That's a lot of money for a free phone, don't you think? Well, don't fall for it. Pure Talk, my cell phone company, has a better option. Get a brand new iPhone 14, which has all the bells and whistles you need, plus get unlimited talk, text, 15 gigs of data, and mobile hotspot, all for $50 a month. How about that? Half the price of the big guys, and you get a new iPhone powered by America's most dependable 5G network. Do this. Go to puretalk.com/Levin today. Switching is easy. Plus, when you go to puretalk.com/Levin, you'll get an additional 50% off your first month. Pure Talk, America's wireless company. I hope this isn't true. It's very troubling to me. Called Jewish Breaking News. Massad Boulas. Have you ever heard of Massad Boulas, Mr. Producer? Of course. Household name. He's President-elect Donald Trump's newly appointed advisor on Middle Eastern and Arab affairs. Advocates for a roadmap toward Palestinian statehood as a prerequisite for normalizing relations between Israel and Saudi Arabia. This has been the Biden-Blinken administration policy and the Lindsey Graham policy. He emphasizes that while immediate statehood isn't demanded, a clear vision and plan are essential. Now, the guy just shows up, and he's telling the Israeli people what they're going to do, and that they're going to surrender their indigenous lands, Judea and Samaria. I understand there's some real estate available in Syria, Mr. Producer. So unfortunately, if this is true, I will be opposing and fighting this every step of the way. I don't care if Balus recommends it, or Graham recommends it, or the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia recommends it, or the man on the moon recommends it. I mean, what the hell does he just think Israel's been through? And where's any evidence whatsoever that there's any segment or corner or group within the Palestinians in the Middle East who seek peace? And can you imagine a state, a full state with a military, including an air force, including missiles? Can you imagine? I cannot imagine. And I'm getting sick and tired of this two-state solution BS. I don't care who it comes from. I don't. I don't know Massad Boulos. But the Israeli people get to decide the fate of their country. And the elected government there gets to decide the fate of their country. By ridding ourselves of the Biden regime, there should be no more dictation from our State Department or an envoy or anybody else. That's a sovereign nation. A sovereign nation. So I'm just making it clear. I'm not changing my position. This has been my position for decades and will continue to be my position. Some people in Israel even disagree with me. They're allowed to, but they're just wrong. But they're not the majority anymore. The majority of the Israelis used to support a two-state solution. Now the majority don't, because they saw what happened. The hell did people think Gaza was? It was a two-state solution. It was Jew-free. The Palestinians had the run of the place. There it was on the Mediterranean, actually quite a beautiful place. What did they do? And what are they doing in Judea and Samaria, which the Islamists and the media in our country call the West Bank? What's happening there? Same thing. And so under these circumstances, you don't have to do it right away, he says, but over time, we need a clear vision and a plan are essential. Okay, you want a clear vision? No. You want a plan? There is none. There, I did it. How'd I do, Mr. Producer? Very interesting. And like I say, I don't know. He's probably talking for himself. I have no idea. No idea. But I will fight anybody pushing a two-state solution, especially after what we've just witnessed. For God's sakes. For crying out loud. Look at all these Arab countries at war with themselves. Look at Syria. Look at Lebanon. Look at these countries, Yemen. The Jews aren't involved. The Israelis aren't involved. So we're supposed to create another country, another state? No, I don't think so. I thought that was part of the Biden regime. And so this will be something that I, for one, will fight. But again, I don't know if he's just saying it or what the deal is. Well, that was 2 busy hours, I would say. But I just want to underscore my point. This issue of a two-state solution isn't a Republican or Democrat, old administration, new administration. This is a matter of survival. Survival. I'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here in our Power Hour, hour number 3. Our number is 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Jackie Rosen was just reelected as a senator from Nevada, unfortunately. Sam Brown would have been fantastic. She says, I'm not going to be voting for Pete Hegseth because of sexual allegations. I'm sure she supported Bill Clinton. She would have never said that about Ted Kennedy, who had more than allegations. There's one allegation. The police investigated it, one allegation. And the police determined that actually they didn't believe the person who was making the allegations. And in fact, as text messages have demonstrated, in my humble opinion, just my opinion, subsequently, Pete was pursued. It certainly appears that way. So Jackie Rosen is just a hack. She's on with Jim Acosta. Hopefully he'll be part of the slashing that's supposed to take place at the Constipated News Network. But we're sitting around and waiting. Not with bated breath, because we'll all suffocate to death. We'll see when that happens. But here she is, just so you get a drift. It is. It's like the Kavanaugh stuff all over again. Cut 2, go.
And Senator, have you decided one way or the other where you are on Pete Hegseth?
No, I'm not going to be voting for Pete Hegseth. Number one, the sexual allegations against him. They are so concerning. I sit on the Armed Services Committee. We have been working for years to combat sexual assault in the military.
He hasn't sexually assaulted anybody, let alone in the military. So what the hell are you talking about? And of course, Acosta's too stupid or too ideological to push back. Go ahead.
Ways for victims to get their stories out and be sure that they get justice, and what kind of message.
Excuse me. What victim are you talking about? So she throws these broadsides out there, but what victim is she talking about? Go ahead.
Employees there and to our families, men and women in the military. Not to mention the allegations of financial mismanagement. There are billions of dollars that are managed to this department. I'm concerned.
What does that have to do with Pete Hegseth? Quite the contrary. Pete Hegseth not only has nothing to do with it, he bring a fresh set of eyes to what's taking place there. So she's rambling on. Go ahead.
I just don't believe that Mr. Hegseth has the broadened resume required for this job.
Well, let's see. Harvard and Princeton, combat, battlefield experience. He's written 2 books. He's managed 2 organizations. Exactly what experience should he bring? He should have been a 4-star general, a 3-star general. Austin's done such a fabulous job. You just slammed Austin, even though you don't use his name, for the mismanagement of the spending over there. You've said it's been going on for some time, which it has. And yet look at the people who've been appointed. So she's just a hack. It's unfortunate because Sam Brown would have been a great senator, and he does have combat experience. That poor guy, he almost burned to death right there on the battlefield. He writes about it in his book. But here we have Jackie Rosen. The famous Jackie Rosen. There are no famous Jackie Rosens, are there, Mr. Producer? No, I don't think so. More infamous in her case than famous. So she spews this line, she spews this stuff that really has nothing to do with Hegseth, the spending that's going on in the panel. We need somebody who's got a better background than that. You see, she'll rubber stamp any Democrat for anything. So, but you know what? We're not counting on the Democrats to vote for him. We just expect the Republicans to do it. Right, Joni? Right, Lindsay? Right, Lindsay? The Saudis have a tremendous lobby within our government, just so you understand, despite their involvement in 9/11. The Saudis have a tremendous influence in our government, including among Republicans and Democrats. There's some senators who can't fly enough to Saudi Arabia. They're there like all the time. And they're promoting this so-called two-state solution. I mean, what is this mindset? That we can tell this country what to do? That's no better than Biden. So when Senator Graham's pushing this pablum, and Muhammad Ayyabad, or whatever his name is, he's pushing it too. Oh, Mark, just get in line. Not getting in line. I don't do that. I don't do that. It's a sovereign nation. Treat it like a sovereign nation. Stop telling it what to do all the time. Stop telling it that it's going to have to cede its indigenous lands to its enemy. It would have been nice if this envoy had spoken out against Palestinian terrorism in Jerusalem and in Judea and Samaria. It would have been nice if he said Abud. It would have been nice if he said that we need to abide by American law. That is, that the Palestinians can't keep funding terrorism by rewarding and providing pensions and bonuses to the families of those who slaughter as many as they can. Would have been nice if he had said that. Would have been nice if he had said the Palestinians, not the Israelis, they're not the perpetrators, that the Palestinians would adhere to various international agreements and stop supporting terrorism within their midst. Would have been nice if he talked about how they need to change their educational system from indoctrinating children barely out of the crib to hate Jews, and by the way, to hate America. Would have been nice if he had said those things, but no, it's just a foregone conclusion, a two-state solution. That has to be opposed. Opposed whether it's Biden, opposed whether it's Graham, opposed whether whomever it is. Whomever it is. Needs to be opposed, and I think it will be opposed. Just my opinion. Kash Patel, who would be a fabulous director of the FBI, has got more than enough credentials. 10 times the credentials of Christopher Wray. 10 times the credentials of Mueller. But Eric Swalwell, for some reason, very prominent, a prominent voice on MSLSD and the Constipated News Network. Very important that we hear from Swalwell. Very important we hear from Bernie Sanders. Very important we hear from the lowest of the lowlives in the Democrat Party. Very important. So there he is on MSLSD with Ayman Mayedalin. Is that how you pronounce it, Mr. Producer? I don't think so either. I'm doing my best. Yabba dabba do. Cut one, go.
Your thoughts on Kash Patel and what you have learned so far about him.
So here he's asking your thoughts on Kash Patel to Swalwell. Isn't that a tough question? Rather than saying, who are you to pass judgment on Kash Patel, given the fact that you had an affair with a communist Chinese spy? Fang Fang, or is it Fang Fang, Congressman? No. Now we have to know If Swalwell's okay with Kash Patel, now keep in mind the Senate votes. The House has no say in this. That doesn't matter. There's Swalwell. They want Swalwell there. They want Swalwell there to trash Kash Patel. This is how it works. So what does he do? He trashes him. Go ahead.
Across from Kash Patel on the House Intel Committee, and he was a loyalist to Devin Nunes and did everything to be a wrecking ball there. And he blindly followed the orders of Nunes.
What does this mean, blindly followed orders? You're a staffer, you work for a congressman. Aren't you supposed to do what you're told, Mr. Producer? I don't even understand that. He blindly followed. So when we have infantry that blindly follow their commanders, is that okay? It seems to me Swalwell blindly follows what his masters say in the Democrat Party. He never breaks off. He never has said a single thing to contradict any of them, which is why, of course, he's one of the favorites on MSLSD. Go ahead.
Trump, and he'll do the same at the FBI. But to the agents at the FBI and the DOJ prosecutors.
Okay, now Swalwell wants to talk directly to the agents of the FBI and the DOJ prosecutors, given his extensive background in communist Chinese spycraft. Go ahead.
Prosecutor once. I had an oath to.
Oh, he was a prosecutor. These former prosecutors, really, so many of them are great, and so many of them are really sleazeballs, like this guy, like Goldman, like Weissman. Okay, let's go. We'll bite. Go ahead.
And to the court, and you're not helpless. You do not have to follow illegal orders.
Where is it said that he's going to give illegal orders, you crackpot? And there they are at MSNBC giving this time to all this guy who goes on in his own fantasy world. He goes on in his own fantasy world. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
I'm curious, America, and ask you a question that I'm sure has never been put to an audience in talk radio of any kind, but nonetheless. From time to time, my mind moves into different areas, so I've been studying Impressionist art and post-Impressionist art, Mr. Producer. Did you know this? You did know this? I mentioned it once. And so I would ask you folks a question. To you, who was the greatest of the 7 artists that I'm going to mention? Not just because you're more familiar with their name than not. Their names are quite familiar for those who have a passing interest in this. But why? The best known is Van Gogh, of course, and then Monet, I would think. But there's others. Seurat, Gauguin, Renoir, Cézanne. Matisse sort of caught the end of the period and moved into the 19th century. Renoir was a little bit of that as well. But nonetheless, these are all fantastic painters. I'm a fan of all of them. But which of those 7 do you think was the greatest? Van Gogh, Monet? Van Gogh and Monet, anytime you pull up a list, well, many times when you pull up a list of the greatest artists, they tend to be in the top 5, certainly the top 10. Seurat didn't live long. He died when he was 32, as did members of his family from various illnesses, but was remarkable. Gauguin was a little different. He wound up in Tahiti and marrying a 13-year-old and so forth and so on. The rest is history. Monet was fairly normal. He was popular among many of his colleagues at the time. Cézanne, well, he had a personality like, in some ways, Gauguin, that is. He would run hot and cold, but he was a genius. Renoir was considered a very, very kind man, as was Matisse. But their personalities aside, they don't matter. Van Gogh died when he was 37. There's some controversy about that now. I've been reading. The theory is he cut his own ear off because he was in love, and then he killed himself. But there's new, I won't say information, there's new analysis of what took place. He and Gauguin were best friends, and then Gauguin turned on him. And there's some information out there to suggest that it was Gauguin who took a sword and cut Van Gogh's ear off, leading to Van Gogh killing himself after he was so dismembered. Interesting, isn't it? This is interesting. The lives of these people, very interesting. Very intriguing. There's not that kind of controversy surrounding Monet or Seurat or Renoir or Matisse. Cézanne was in many ways a loner. And Gauguin was Gauguin. And there's others too that are less well known but quite brilliant. I've come to learn about Edward Boudin, Boudin, who was one of the earliest of the Impressionists, and who many of these gentlemen learned from. Pisario is another one. I'm not trying to show you what I know. I'm trying to show you maybe this might interest you, even to look into it yourself. There was Manet, who was a great artist. Degas, another great artist. But I'm not going to sit here and list all the great artists because, we'll have to go to Michelangelo and so forth and so on. You know what, though? What's interesting? I'm not a fan of Picasso, Mr. Producer. Well, but I understand Cubism, they call it, and all the rest of this stuff, but I'm not a fan of Picasso. Now, the early Picasso was a little more traditional, but some of it got interesting as he was dealing with angles and circles and all the rest of it. But then to me, I just don't buy into or like it. The last third of his life, maybe the last quarter of his life, and yet he's always considered in the top 5 or top 10 as well. But just not. Now, if you have an original you want to give me, that's a whole other story. But you understand, it's just not me. One of the artists that's popular, he was not an Impressionist, but I guess you would call him more sort of a modernist, is Marc Chagall. Now, his paintings are very interesting. I find some of them to be exquisite, and I find some of them not to be exquisite. I guess like any other artist, right? But he lived a long time. I think he died in the 70s, if memory's correct. But his paintings are very fascinating. Not all, most of them, many of them. Like any of the other artists. And then they had periods where they changed. They all kind of started out as traditionalists doing landscape and portraits, and then they broke out. And then there were sort of these factions within the Impressionists, or the Impressionists versus the Traditionalists, and the Impressionists versus the Post-Impressionists. Again, I'm not trying to bore you. I'm just saying some of this stuff for me is very interesting. And so, I'm keyed into this now. And by the way, you know who was a great painter? This is a name all of you have heard of. Winston Churchill. He painted 500 or so paintings. And they go for millions of dollars. $1 million, $1.5 million, $2 million, depending on what they are. Brad Pitt and Angela Jolie, they had a painting, famous painting. He gave one painting to Franklin Roosevelt. That painting is the most valuable of his paintings. And when they divorced, they sold it, and it sold for millions. I think $8 million, $9 million. It's a beautiful, beautiful painting, but again, it's the only one that Churchill gave to Franklin Roosevelt. And he was self-taught. And Churchill said he would have lost his mind during the war, before the war, after the war, if he hadn't been painting. You should check it out on the internet. His paintings are fantastic. All right. We'll get back. Don't worry. We'll get back to center. I'll be right back.
The only show with a warning label, The Liberals. The Mark Levin Show. Call in now at 877-381-3811.
I'm not going to spend the entirety of the final, we only have 20 minutes left of the program on this, but it's something I'm interested in. Maybe some of you might be interested just in the conversation. So let's see here. Let's go to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Bill How are you, Bill?
Good, Mark. How are you, sir?
Doing great, thank you.
Wanted to answer your question about the painter. It was Michelangelo for me.
Well, now listen, Michelangelo is number 1 or 2. I don't disagree with that. But I was talking about these sort of impressionist guys, There's big debate about them. There's not a big debate about Michelangelo. He's either number 1 or number 2, in my humble opinion.
I'm not very well versed on the others, so I would have to stick to that one.
Yeah, well,
But I did have a question about this whole. I did have a question about this whole drone thing and the possible. Where is the president of the United States then?
Well, the problem is he is a drone.
States.
So the fact is, this guy's checked out a long time ago. It's frightening that he's still there. The 25th Amendment hasn't been triggered. I mean, if you're not going to trigger it for this guy, who the hell are you going to trigger it for? So don't expect anything from him but self-congratulation, a legacy speech, a pat on the back of his own head. I mean, his wife apparently can't even stand him. Did you notice that?
I try to stay away from all that as I can. I listen to you and about 2 other people. I stay away from everything else.
Well, thank you, brother. You take care of yourself. I appreciate that. Let's go to Ronnie in Maryland on the Mark Levin app. How are you, Ronnie?
Doing good, Mark. How you doing?
Okay.
First-time caller. I got to tell you, I love your show. I've been listening for about 9-10 years now.
Thank you, sir.
You're the best of the best.
And by the way, I'm glad you used the Mark Levin app. I want to encourage everybody listening, download the Mark Levin app. It goes with you wherever you are. It doesn't matter. You can always hear the program no matter what. Just download it, just for backup even. The Mark Levin app. Go right ahead. I'm sorry, Ronnie.
That's okay. I was going to say Andy Warhol. Is that how you say his name?
That is. Andy. I'm just kidding. Warhol, yeah. I'm not big on him, but I understand a lot of people are. I'm not big on painting Campbell soup cans, that sort of thing.
That's simple for me. I understand it. It's not abstract.
But here's my question to you. How do you get millions and millions of dollars for that?
I don't know. Suckers.
Yes, I think a lot of it is marketing. A lot of it in the art world probably becomes the thing to buy, the thing to see. There's this guy who died at a young age, I think of an overdose. If I'm wrong, I apologize. Basquiat, and not the philosopher, but this painter. And he was homeless for a long time and apparently used drugs for a long time, but he died at a very young age, younger than 30. I think he was 27. And he would paint often graffiti in the streets, or he would draw and paint postcards and sell them for $0.25 on the bus and so forth and so on. And he became somewhat of a cultural phenomenon in the art world. And now his paintings go for tens of millions. One of them went for like $200 million. I'm going, what the hell is that?
Yeah. I
think I'm going to start painting, Ronnie. What do you think about that?
I'll buy your art.
I'm just kidding. Although I have painted in the past when I was much younger, and I did find it relaxing. I just did. All right, I'll get off this, but I just wanted to explore it a little bit. Ronnie, God bless you, my friend. Thank you for calling from the state of Maryland. Not so much the great state, the state of Maryland, if you get my drift. Let's take some other callers. Let's go to Chris, Dallas, Texas, XM Satellite. Chris, how are you, sir? Uh-oh. Hello, Chris. By the way, we're getting new phone lines, aren't we, Mr. Producer? We're going to hopefully get new phone lines soon. Let's try again. Linda, Polk's Neck, New Jersey. The great WABC. Linda, how are you?
I'm good, Mark. How are you? And I just want to say I thank my mother so much for over 20 years ago to tell me to listen to you. And I listened to your first show over 20 years ago, and I've been hooked ever since.
On WABC. Well, what happens if I weren't on in New York? What would you do then?
If you went what?
If I wasn't on the air in New York, what would you do?
I'd probably have to listen to an app, but I just like to turn on the radio.
You go on the app, yeah.
Yeah, I would do that. But I just want to say, in Colts Neck, we have the Trump golf course. We have Earl Naval Weapons Station Base. Mm-hmm. And over 2 weeks now, every single
Ground
night,
zero for these damn drones, right?
Right. So we have multiple drones coming over, multiple. from the east to the west, from the water to the west.
Crazy.
And it isn't hard to look up and see them. Now, I don't know if you can shoot them because I don't know anything about guns.
Apparently, it's illegal to shoot them in New Jersey and New York, which is crazy. Well, you might hurt somebody. No, we might actually blow up the drone. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, no, there has to be something done. And I know that the only thing I rely on the government for is to keep me safe. Other than that, I could take care of myself. But we need to know what's going on. And I think, obviously, if President Trump is listening or if somebody can give him the message, he needs to get involved because everybody in this area really is concerned why so many drones are coming overhead.
I don't blame you folks. I mean, it's crazy. I want people out there who aren't in this area or all over the country. Think about this. Every night, you've got like a fleet of drones flying near your home, or you can see them in the distance. If you shine a light on them or something of that sort, they shut their lights off so they're responsive. Some of them are huge, the size of a Volkswagen. Some of them are tiny. I mean, what the hell's going on? And our government can't figure it out? That's what gets me. I think they can figure it out. I just think they're covering it up.
Right. I just hope Trump can do something about it. We need to get the message to him, and especially that he has a golf course here. Maybe he'll be a little bit more interested. But definitely something's going on, and it's nothing good.
I agree, Lyndon. Thank you for your call in 20 years. That's fantastic. Thank you. There's always the Mark Levin app, ladies and gentlemen. Always backup systems on the internet, on podcasting. No way to miss this show, perfectly honest. No way to miss it. Let's continue. Let's go to Susan, St. Clairsville, Ohio, on the Mark Levin app. How are you?
Hi, Mark. I've been silent, Mark, for 32 years.
It's a long time.
A long time. Our government, I can tell you the FBI...
We don't need this, Mr. Call Screener. Okay, let's go. Who's that? Pierre, Kansas City, Missouri, on the Mark Levin app. Pierre, you're a painter. How are you, sir?
I am terrific. It's actually a female name, but it's unusual. I was calling about your question on the Impressionists, and it is an interesting question.
Mm-hmm. What do you think?
One of the things about Gauguin that a lot of people don't know is he used very little oil paint because he was overseas and he didn't have much paint. So he
I didn't
put
hear
it
you.
on the canvas.
Who were you mentioning? Who did you mention?
Gauguin.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
When he was in the South Seas, Gauguin used very little paint.
Mm-hmm.
So
he was kind of a strange dude, though, wasn't he?
He was very peculiar, but his paintings, because he didn't use much paint, when you see them in person, they're totally different than when you look at a reproduction.
So, let me ask you this. Other than the mechanics of it, is he among your favorite of the Impressionists or the Impressionist types?
No, I don't like the some of the subject matter
Raunchy?
that he picked. I would say I like Monet. If I was going to hang
He had a lot of naked young girls, didn't he?
He did, and he had a lot of sex with the naked young girl.
Yeah, that's my point. It was
So
a weird dude. You know, I like Renoir, but he had a lot of paintings of women sitting on a toilet. Did you notice that too?
Yes. Yes, I did notice that. I probably
miss.
wouldn't hang a Renoir. I would hang a Monet. I do like Monet paintings. Maybe I'd pick him the best. And I enjoy the subject matter of Gauguin.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I'd rather look at it in a museum.
Mm-hmm. What about Seurat? He wasn't around long a time, but, you know, that sort of point painting and so forth, does that do anything for you?
I was going to ask you if Seurat was the pointillist.
He was. He was the first one.
I thought it was creative and interesting, but I kind of feel like I do about Gauguin. I feel like the way that he painted was creative.
Mm-hmm.
He had very stiff people. He was painting upper class people that were on the beaches, and his paintings are rather stiff. So,
but early on he didn't do that. Early on he had these what they call these postcard paintings. They're small, of the beach and the ocean and so forth. I mean, it was basic kind of impressionism art, and then he just kind of almost like an architect. He went into this pointism type painting. He invented it. But you know what I like about that period? I'll be honest with you. What I like about that period is the inventiveness. How they were all thinking outside the box. And, it wasn't paint by the numbers. It was just different. And in some ways very beautiful. And in each one of these artists, they would typically start out with landscapes and portraits, and then they would move on. So I don't know. I just found that kind of interesting. Any final words?
They were creative, and each one that you mentioned at some point did some very beautiful paintings.
Mm-hmm. All right, my friend. Pleasure to hear from you. Thank you very, very much. What am I doing now, Rich? I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
I'll move on, I promise, but this stuff fascinates you. I'm surprised nobody mentioned Van Gogh, because he was tremendous. Tremendous. So people always ask me all the time, what are my interests, right? And I say the Constitution, reading, and so forth and so on, but this is one of them that we discussed the last few minutes. Another one, believe it or not, ready for this, and you know this, gemstones, Mr. Producer. The rarer, the more curious and interesting they are to me. I'll tell you why. Because you go into a jewelry store, there's a beautiful gem, it's in a beautiful setting. That's not how this really starts. Somebody has to mine it. And there's all kinds of mines, different kinds of mines. Some of them are in hellholes. Some of them are God knows where. They're found on purpose. They're found by accident. And then to find the gem, to find the material, which is not automatically necessarily crystal, to find it from some far-off place or island, Madagascar, you name it, and then to clean it and cut it. To clean it and cut it, and then to mount it. The history behind the gems that you have, your wedding ring, whatever it is, just incredible. But I'll get off this stuff tomorrow, don't worry. We salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, emergency personnel, our truckers, our brothers and sisters in Ukraine, our brothers and sisters in Israel. No two-state solution, the final solution. And you, the American people, God bless each and every one of you. I'll see you tomorrow.